Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this somber evening, November 20th, 2020, for our 18th annual Transgender Day of Remembrance. Tonight, we honor the lives of the ones we have tragically and painstakingly lost this year. This evening would not have been made possible without the call to action our TDOR Planning Committee, community partners, elected officials, and all our guests speaking tonight are making to denounce transphobia in the finest city in America, San Diego. We would like to thank Nathan Fletcher, Supervisor of the 4th District, in partnership with the County of San Diego's LGBTQIA Employee Resource Group and the African American Association of County Employees for lighting up the County Administration Center and Convention Center Sales Pavilion in pink, light blue, and white. The beautiful colors of the transgender flag are gracing our city structures for all to see, with an objective to help raise trans awareness and visibility here in our city. Because as a trans woman of color, this is my city too. My name is Naya Marie Velasco. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I humbly serve as a transgender services coordinator at the San Diego LGBT Community Center. Project Trans at the Center is a program that offers direct supportive services, immediately enhancing and changing the lives of our transgender, non-binary, agender, gender fluid, genderqueer, and two-spirited community members. Every day in my role as a public servant, I am faced with the cruel reality that my community is not only marginalized, but suffering. Suffering from childhood trauma and rejection, constantly being bullied, harassed, and put down. Most of us are unable to access basic needs like food, housing, shelter, medical care, health insurance, gender confirmation surgeries, employment, higher education, public safety, and accessibility services. We are demanding inclusion. We are demanding protection. We are demanding to be seen, felt, and heard tonight. I have the honor and pleasure of introducing one of our various co-hosts tonight who is committed to ending transphobia. Ben Mendoza, they, them, is a non-binary, queer, Latinx community activist that is passionate about leadership and community engagement work, as well as advocating for an intersectional approach to justice. Their passion for community work has empowered them to serve as the Transgender Program Coordinator and Assistant Parade Manager for San Diego Pride, Chair of USD's LGBTQ Pride Alumni, member of the Research Advisory Committee for the Kim Center of Social Balance, and a board member on City Heights Town Council. Everyone join me in welcoming Ben Mendoza.
Thank you so much, Naya. Good evening, everyone. I'm here today because these issues directly affect my trans family. I've seen and experienced the trauma of watching this systemic killing of trans women of color, especially Black trans women in our country. Every year, but especially this year, the mainstream seems to discover that violence against trans women of color exists. But we know that the violence of our community is nothing new. Those in the transgender, gender nonconforming, and non-binary community face discrimination across multiple sectors within employment, housing, police brutality, and healthcare. Discrimination across these sectors conspire to deprive us of opportunities, resources, and our humanity. I'm here tonight to ask that allies watching join us in advocating for real, tangible change. In addition to honoring those we have lost, we must push for change in legislation that would protect the transgender community, especially trans women of color. We are just 2 weeks out from the 2020 election. We have newly elected officials in our city council, in our state capitol, and in our White House. I implore you to hold these electeds accountable for creating the change we need to see. My life, the lives of my trans siblings, depend on it. Trans Day of Remembrance is a yearbook that I don't want any of my siblings to be a part of. Now transitioning, I would like to introduce our next speaker. Liam Kiskis, he, him, is a 14-year-old activist and represents the Pai O Cowichum from La Jolla Kumeyaay, from San Pascal, and Mojave from Parker, Arizona. Liam has a passion for educating others, especially parents, about trans and two-spirit identities. Liam is closely connected to his heritage and family. He currently studies American Sign Language and has made sure to close caption his speech. We welcome Liam as he acknowledges the ancestral land of our Kumeyaay people.
Hauka, my name is Liam Quisquez. I am Poyoko Wichum from La Jolla, Kumeyaay from San Pasqual, and Mojave from Parker, Arizona. My pronouns are he, him. I am 14 years old. I have known I was trans-masculine, two-spirited since the age of 12. My mom said when she was pregnant with me, she always felt me having male energy. Today we are brought together to acknowledge the ancestral land of our Kumeyaay people. Our ancestors resided on this land. They hunted, fished, gathered, had ceremonies, gave life to our future generations, and had died on these lands. This acknowledgement is to remind those who live, work, and pass through these lands that they are still very sacred to us. This acknowledgement pays respects to our past ancestors who suffered and survived to continue to give life. To all those still living and finding their way through these rough times and past and current traumas, to the future generations, native and non-native, may this remind them that we are still here, we are still present and strong, and we are still keepers of this land. So today we ask our ancestors to welcome us and give us strength, knowledge, and peace. We are here in a good way to honor our trans brothers and sisters who passed on and are here in spirit with us. To guide us with clean hearts, spirits, and minds, we pray for those who do not understand and to open their hearts, spirits, and minds for compassion, understanding, empathy, and love. To teach them we are not here to hurt anyone, but to love one another just as we are. Our ancestors reside in all of us. When we walk these lands, we walk with the strength of our ancestors supporting and watching over us. Trans people are no different from cisgender people. We eat, drink, talk, and think the same. Hating someone for feeling so much happier as trans should not be a reason to hate at all. We were made to love and care for everyone. Trans people struggle with loving themselves every day. They hate seeing their body because it's too masculine or too feminine. They hate it so much because they feel they can never achieve their goal. But if you tell them you are disgusting, or you are a girl or boy, they feel no one supports them, no one cares, and you don't love them. For all you parents, if you can't support your child, don't have children. Love them for who they are. We are creating an unsafe environment for them because they have no one to turn to. I am lucky to have the support of my mom, my sister, and my cousin Tim. Their love has kept me from continuing to hurt myself. They accept me for who I am. Keep your home a safe place so we do not lose any more trans people from lack of love and support. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you so much, Liam. We appreciate you both. I get to introduce our next speaker for this evening. Achi Vasquez is the founder and director of the House of Resilience, an organization that aims to increase quality of life for trans feminine people of color, as well as our local LGBT community. The House of Resilience is in the process of starting San Diego's first 100% free community housing program for trans feminine people of color. Achi is herself a Latina trans woman and aims to make transition something to be celebrated, not feared. Everyone join me in welcoming Achi Vasquez.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for gathering with us here today to recognize this very special, very important day. My name is Achi Vasquez, and I am a San Diego native, Chicana, community member, and transgender. I am here not only as a representative of our community, but I am here to denounce transphobia that is painstakingly and overwhelmingly taking the lives of our Black and Latina trans siblings. I am also the founder of the director of the House of Resilience, an organization dedicated to bringing trans women resources to improve quality of life, but also to provide a space and community where trans women can be celebrated and supported and live long, fruitful lives. Running an organization like the House of Resilience was definitely not the path of least resistance and has had numerous challenges in this world that challenges trans lives daily. Throughout the time I have been running the House of Resilience, we have provided clothes, money, support, and hope to many who are struggling. And as a trans person myself, this is the greatest gift I could ever receive. The House of Resilience is currently raising funds for San Diego's first 100% community housing program for trans feminine people of color. Truly a place and a way that us together can provide a place where we can house and nurture our most vulnerable members of our community. I envision that one day the transition will not be something to be afraid of, but something to be celebrated and be excited about. On this year's Transgender Day of Remembrance, I would like to remember, recognize, and pay an ode to the amazing people that have given everything so that we could be here today. Not just to the numerous names that we're going to say today, but to the countless ones who have never been given the justice and recognition that they deserve. We will continue loving, working, and fighting for our ability to forever live our life the most authentic way possible and envision a world where our mere existence is no longer a threat. I also just want to say and give a quick shout out to the people that made this year's event possible. I know that everything is different and scary right now, but people like Nye, Ben, Taylor, and everyone else have worked so hard to make this happen this year, and I applaud all of you. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, Achi, so much. I definitely feel your presence, even though we're not close right now. I definitely feel close to you in spirit, and thank you so much. I get to introduce another incredible person, someone I'm very, very fond of. Pamela Hallowell, her is a licensed marriage and family therapist who specializes in working with children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, homelessness and transitional age youth, and individuals in LGBTQIA communities, especially the transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming community. She is a secretary of the Black LGBTQ Coalition, a member of the Gender Fluid Collective, and a member of the California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. She has worked as a therapist at the San Diego LGBT Community Center going on 4 years and is the first Black transgender female therapist that has ever worked at the San Diego LGBT Community Center. She also works with transgender and gender non-binary individuals who require a letter to access care for gender affirmation confirmation surgery, including providing resources and short-term case management support. Pamela has represented and attended various conferences, including WPATH. WPATH is World Professional Association for Transgender Health, Thomas Jefferson School of Law, and Gender Odyssey. She has also written various articles pertaining to transgender rights and mental health. As a therapist, a woman, a transgender woman, and an African American woman, she is aware of both her role in the community and working to fight against discrimination in and outside the center. Pamela also maintains a private practice part-time and works to both empower and mobilize the community to make a change. Join me in welcoming our second host of the evening, someone I'm very fond of, Pamela Hallowell.
Thank you so much, Naya, for such a warm and caring introduction. Hello, everyone. I am glad and honored to be here. I'm so glad that we figured out a way to do this, especially during this time with COVID-19. This event means a lot to me personally as a community member, as a Black transgender woman. It is so important that we take this time to memorialize and honor the various folks whose lives have been taken from them to no fault of their own. This is probably one of the only times their names will actually be said correctly and their spirit honored, where they are not just a name and they're not just a number and they're not just a statistic. These were individuals who were living their lives until something happened and that took them away. Every day at the center, it becomes my job to try to empower members of our community to make sure that we are strong together, we are smart, and we continue to not only survive, but thrive. In keeping with that, I want to highlight a particular member of the community, Monica Roberts, who we also lost this year. I know that a lot of folks were hopefully familiar with her as she ran the Transgrio blog. And I just wanted to share a couple of quick words about her that I found through the New York Times article. I mean, I want to just emphasize how wonderful, how amazed I was that the New York Times said something about a transgender person, because so many times it feels like people are not saying anything about transgender people. A griot is a storyteller. And from the article, it says, Miss Roberts set out to tell the stories and history and lived experiences of the transgender community. And starting her blog in 2006, at a time when coverage of transgender issues by the mainstream media was limited and often deemed offensive by those being covered. A proud, unapologetic Black trans woman speaking truth to power and discussing the world around her. Not only was she involved in covering these issues, but she every year helped to memorialize the names of various people who found themselves on this list. People who look just like me, Black, transgender women, are disproportionately killed. We've got to stop killing Black trans women. Stop killing Black trans women. Stop killing Black trans women. And now I want to introduce someone who is going to echo this same message and is also unapologetic. Jaina Emma, who uses she, her pronouns, was born and raised in Raleigh, North Carolina. Her bars and verses speak volumes as a recording artist and rapper who lives authentically and unapologetically. Jaina Emma was most recently featured in That Grape Juice Top 5 New FemCs on Fire list. The article states, Nyema's sound is alternative and almost futuristic. Her flow and hard-hitting beats mesh perfectly together and make for a fresh flavor of rap. Jay has most recently started her endeavors into philanthropy. She connects with her community more doing nonprofit work for the LGBTQIA+ community, but has given an undeniable voice for people who feel muted and erased. Please welcome Jaina Emma.
Hey everybody, it's Jay. You know who it is. I just wanted to let you guys know that you are loved. I've missed you guys so much. It's been hard since COVID and we've been stuck in the house with our masks on, having to suffer for just a while longer. So, I'm just giving you guys a little bit more encouragement. It will pass. This too shall pass. So I just want to be here and be that light for you and tell you that, okay, you are not a statistic. Anything that revolves around a number has nothing to do with you and your trajectory in your life. If you say that I'm going to be such and such, then you go ahead and you do it. There's nothing that can stop you. There's no number that can define who you are. I'm a living testament. I'm doing it. I can be exactly who I said that I'm going to be and more Who knows what's in store for all of us? What I do need to let you guys know is we are responsible for our allies. We are responsible for our sisters. We're responsible for our elders. We're responsible for our babies. We are responsible for the community. When it comes to anyone, if you see someone being hurt, you need to speak up. It's very true. The bystander effect is very real. You don't want to be victim to that. You don't want to be in a box where you feel helpless. You can do something. You can stand up for what's right. When something is not right, it's time for you to stick up for us, and especially Black trans women, Latina trans women, or anyone that is of color, or just trans women in general. It's time for us to be heard. It's time for us to be in the forefront. I'm here doing it. You can do it too. My name is Jaina Emma. I am a female rapper from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I always get it poppin'. The fuck?
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Pamela. So next I get to introduce another representative of our community and also another host. I'm proud to introduce Leah Pronovo. Was born and raised in Springfield, Massachusetts. In her teens, she became very interested in religion and spirituality. While being raised a very strict Roman Catholic, she struggled with who she really was, and she was identified male at birth, but never felt comfortable with that. Much later on, she learned of her indigenous heritage and felt more comfortable with the term Two-Spirit. After a near-death experience in 2006, she wondered what life was truly about and came to the conclusion she would not live her life for others. She came out and told everyone that she could not live the lie anymore and had to be true to herself. At that point, she started living her life. That's great. After making that decision, she became an activist, an advocate for the trans community. She started a transgender peer support group and ran a second group in another county, worked on the Rainbow Elders, was on a board of directors of PFLAG in 2 counties in Massachusetts. She also volunteered for the Detention Project at the Transgender Law Center, and at one point worked the Trans Lifeline, not only as an operator, but also as a team lead for a number of operations. Now she works here in California as a case manager for Unicorn Homes, which is a program of the North County LGBTQ Resource Center here in Oceanside. She is the Gender Advocacy Project Chair and also works the COVID-19 Relief Program for North County LGBTQ Resource Center. Everyone join me in welcoming Leah Pronovo.
Thank you, Naya. As Naya said, I work at North County LGBTQ Resource Center as case manager for Unicorn Homes and also chair of the Gender Advocacy Project. Unicorn Homes is a host homes program for LGBTQ homeless youth ages 14 to 24. I identify as Two-Spirit because of my blood. I am part Mohawk, which is of the Iroquois Nation, and also part Abenaki. This also means I'm a trans woman. When I first started to go to TDOR events, I didn't know anyone on the list. So I felt somber, but it didn't mean that much to me. Then it happened. A friend appeared on the list. The following year, another friend. A couple years later, another friend. I want you to know, these are not just names. These are people who had lives. They had friends, families, hopes, and dreams. Now I know tonight is actually about them, but I want to make mention to a couple of things that are dear to me. I worked the Trans Lifeline, a suicide hotline for trans people, by trans people, for many years. Those that attempt or even succeed in suicide, I have to say, they are also victims of the same type of transphobic violence that these people died from. Most were beaten, raped, left for dead, but survived, then eventually took their own life. The next thing dear to me is the colonization of this country. I am a product of that colonization. I know nothing of my own people's cultures, traditions, and language. You see, my grandmothers were taken from their homes and sent to white Christian boarding schools. As a result of that, they had to lose their own language, culture, and traditions. Have you ever tried to learn a language without hearing it spoken? It's practically impossible. So in the light of this, please keep a special place in our hearts for the indigenous women we have lost, which is not even tracked here in the US. Some of those are also Two-Spirit as well. Please remember them, and even though they don't show up here. The one thing I really want everyone to take away from tonight is to get out there and tell people their stories, educate the general public in order to help stop this from happening. Tonight, I want to introduce Tamsin Arnett. She uses she, her pronouns. She is a 24-year-old transgender woman from Carlsbad with great and fortunate support from her family. She has been able to thrive despite her challenges. Last year, she became involved in trans activism and advocacy by joining the North County LGBTQ Center's GAP Committee, an arm of the center that focuses on such issues. She seeks to become more involved in local activism and advocacy in the future. When not helping GAP, Tamsin works in the retail field. She loves video games, art, animals, and playing Dungeons and Dragons with her best friends.
Good evening. Thank you for your presence here. For we might not be together in space, but we are together in heart and mind. My name is Tamsin, and no matter what a legal record says, that name has been and will always be a part of me. The same is true of those we remembered this year. This year. My entire life I have been told that I am very patient and mild-mannered, and while that is the case for most elements of my life, that is not why I am here right now. With each passing year, I feel as though time moves faster, my patience depleting. I feel as though my anger sets in more swiftly, my blood boiling ever more quickly. When facing these issues, there is no such thing as impatience. I, like many, am tired of waiting for the deaths to stop. If you are also tired of waiting, you may not think you can, but you can be the difference that our community needs. I want to talk about ways we can take action to prevent death and hate. Protecting transgender and gender nonconforming people is generally done on a larger scale, but there are ways you can help today and with minimal effort. You don't have to devote your life to a cause to be an advocate. All you need is an objective and a little planning. I don't pretend to know the best plan, but this is mine. My objective is to stop killing driven by hate and ignorance. So let us plan to show others what love is like. Let us be gentle, but fierce in our loving. Let us be understanding, but forward in our teaching. I have seen, heard, and felt these ideals connect with those people who have lived in hate and ignorance but have ultimately been steered towards a better way. Let us show the ignorance that a person lives under that skin and bone. They are a person attuned to feel hurt from words that may not be made to hurt, but do. Show them that words matter in equal measure to actions, and that words can inspire action, whether they be good or ill. This applies to all, common folk and leaders alike. Show them that their words truly matter, for those words may be an inspiration for another's hateful act. Here's the difficult part. Showing the hateful and uneducated that same transgender or gender nonconforming person. It is so difficult because some may not even believe that they are, in fact, a person, but some kind of monstrosity or mistake. Some of these people may not be able to change, but I have witnessed some slowly turn away from their unfounded hate and steer back toward attempts at understanding. It is not easy, but it is necessary. Believe it or not, we must also look inward at our own community and see that transphobia is alive and well. It is not enough to say transgender women are women, or transgender men are men, or non-binary people are valid. We must be active in showing that our own community is in fact embracing all within it equally. Everyone deserves an inclusive community to thrive in. Most of all, if we are a community, then let us act as such. Let us be a friend circle that understands, a family that supports, a confidant who cares. I believe we can do this. The past decade has been hard fought, and the last few years a struggle, but we are strong enough to weather the storm and forge our path toward safety and promise and tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leah and Tasmin. Those were beautiful words. Citlali Mendoza, pronouns he, him, is a Latinx, gender-blessed educator and healer from San Diego who is passionate about using spiritual tools to dismantle the gender binary. Citlali is committed to intersectional queer, trans, and gender nonconforming community work through involvement with the Gender Fluid Collective and previous work with GLSEN and Our Safe Place. He has a background in trauma-informed LGBTQIA+ mental health services, in counseling theory, and in meditation and breathwork. Through Mix Mendoza, Citlali helps people reclaim their gender identities, free from colonial and capitalist frameworks, through introspective workshops, group programs, and one-on-one emotional support. You can learn more about Mix Mendoza and his work on Instagram at mx.mendoza_. So please help me welcome Citlali.
Hello, everyone. My name is Citlali Mendoza, and I take he, him. I am honored to be here today with you all. I was born in Tijuana and raised here in San Diego on Kumi Island. I had the pleasure of working for Our Safe Place in GLSEN for a year, and now I volunteer with the Gender Fluid Collective. This year, with the support of the San Diego queer and trans community, I have explored different pronouns, gender expressions, and hormone replacement therapy in my quest to present as the most authentic me at any given moment. I have had to break down my understanding of gender to deepen my relationship with myself. Through this process, I feel born anew with so much more self-love and compassion for others. This process has transformed me in such a way that I have founded an entrepreneurship to help others process gender for themselves. In a year of intensively focusing on gender, I have come to several conclusions. The first is that gender is a performance. It's a costume we all wear every day until we decide to notice it and play with it. I believe children really understand the essence of it much better than adults. Part of being human is the joy of getting to express ourselves, to revel in the freedom of being completely unique, to remain curious about who we are. I love that I get to play with gender every day. The second is that the gender binary exists because white supremacy, capitalism, and colonialism exist. Once our bodies were able to be politicized and categorized into binaries in order to be subjugated, colonizers enforced the idea that performing or embodying cis whiteness made people more human, thus justifying their violence against those who did not or could not perform as such. Transgender violence cannot be separated from anti-Black violence or colonial violence. They have always existed together to enforce the system. The third is that at the end of the day, I am a white masculine person. My Latinx, assigned female at birth, and immigrant identities do not limit my freedom to play with gender without the fear of safety. Transgender Day of Remembrance is not about me. It is about Black women and femmes who are still not granted that same freedom. Every single year, the majority of people honored on Transgender Day of Remembrance are Black women and femmes. It is important to recognize that transgender violence is a branch on the trunk and roots of white supremacy and settler colonialism, as we commit to healing the gender binary in ourselves and in the collective. The existence of Black trans women and femmes is such a threat to that trunk and roots of white supremacy because our culture enforces the idea that our humanity is earned based on our approximation to able-bodied, thin, cis whiteness. I would like to ask you to ponder the ways in which you enforce this idea in your own body. Do you think you would feel better about your body if you were thinner, more muscular, able-bodied? Do you feel ashamed of certain parts or manners of expression? Do you think others would perceive you as more attractive if you had lighter skin or conformed to gendered fashion trends? In essence, do you evaluate your body through other people's reactions? Often when we judge our own bodies, we subconsciously project that judgment onto other people. A part of us wants to separate us, the morally righteous and obviously human, from them, the socially marginalized and dehumanized. That divisiveness in our consciousness about who we are leads to a poor relationship with our body, ourselves, and with others who reflect that divisiveness in us, as with the case of trans violence. I would like to push our LGBTQIA community in San Diego to be more mindful of how we perpetuate the harms of these oppressive systems in ourselves, in our organizations, and in the leadership of our community. Are we holding ourselves accountable for our internalized anti-Blackness, as well as our internalized transphobia and internalized misogyny? Are we centering Black women and femmes in our organizations? Are we taking our anti-racist training as seriously as our LGBT training? As a queer and trans person, I owe my right to marry and to transition medically and legally to the activism of trans women of color. I would love for the LGBTQ community in San Diego, on Kumeyaay land, to honor those roots because queer and trans liberation cannot occur without Black liberation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben Mendoza and Mexit Lali, for your kind words and your words of wisdom. And now I'd like to introduce Gregory Richardson. Gregory Richardson is a non-binary person of color who uses he, they pronouns. Gregory represents both trans family support services as a youth programs coordinator and a North County LGBTQ Resource Center youth advisor to the board. Greg's dual roles give them the opportunity to reach LGBTQ youth, specifically the transgender community, by providing transition-related services and support. Gregory serves community members from the age of 3 to 76 who are trans and need help along their journey. Their objective is to create long-term gender-affirming care for everyone who needs it. Whether someone is starting to come out, in need of medical services, legal name change, or gender-affirming clothing, Gregory prides themselves as an ambassador, mentor, and guide. They are also a queer artist who creates work that is reflective of their experiences and perspectives of queer life and social political activism. Gregory's personal mission is to combine both skills of art and advocacy to create queer-centered art communities and expand the culture of local scenes to be more inclusive, progressive, and accepting. Please welcome Gregory Richardson.
Hi everyone, my name is Greg Richardson and I'm the Youth Programs Coordinator for Trans Family Support Services. Thank you for taking the time to honor our trans siblings with Transgender Day of Remembrance. This year we faced greater challenges with the pandemic, the election, and a surge of hate crimes and violence towards our community. Transgender women of color specifically have continued to face the most brutality in our society. These are all somebody's child, somebody's friend, somebody's brother or sister, and these people were all loved by their own community, which is why we take today to honor those that we've lost. The best thing that you can do for us is to educate yourself and to stand up to injustice, whether that's at home or in the streets. Our team has worked so hard to put this event together, and right now we need community more than ever during the holidays. Take today to remember how far that we've come, but how far we still have yet to go. We deserve to not only live, but thrive. Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Greg Richardson.
Thank you, Gregory and Pamela. I would like to introduce Hennessy Livingston. She, her. She is a Black trans woman who not only hopes for a better future, but envisions our community living freely, existing amongst everyone peacefully. Hennessy's community involvement includes volunteering with Stepping Stone of San Diego, an inpatient recovery treatment program specialized in serving the LGBTQIA+ community. She works behind the scenes helping other transgender women find their way back home to recovery. Hennessy also volunteers for the Center, Imperial Court de San Diego, and San Diego Pride Office. Everyone join me in welcoming Hennessy Livingston.
Hi everybody, my name is Hennessy Livingston. I am a Black trans female. I'm a San Diego native, and my pronouns are she and her. Transgender Day of Remembrance is a day to continue to carry the light for those who can't, a day to remember those who have passed and faced violence. Today is also a day to acknowledge the systematic issues that contribute to the levels of violence towards trans women. Say their names. Felicia Harris was an interior decorator and ran her own company when she was violently shot and killed for simply living in her truth. It's a shame that we have to continue to hashtag our friends' names, add them to a list of names to be memorized every year. I personally dislike the saying, say their names. I feel like it should be called, let's stop saying their names. Let's fix this problem so we don't have to continue to say any more names. I'm a San Diego native, and so I grew up in San Diego. I knew I was different around the age of 6. I just didn't know what it was called, but I knew that I wasn't in my right body. When I was around 9, my family and I became homeless, and so I got a taste of that. And when I did decide to come out as trans, my family turned me away and kicked me out. And unfortunately, that's where I've learned where a lot of the stereotypes come from transgender being on the streets. I realized how transgender and drugs are correlated, transgender and prostitution is correlated, transgender and just being fetishized by men is correlated. And it's very unfair, you know. With me growing up and being on the streets, I've been robbed, I've been beat, I've been raped. I've been through it all, you know, and it's all because I was transgender and people viewed me as a victim. One of the things that I had trouble with the most is the Black community. The Black community, in my opinion, does not accept transgender. And it was something that I knew that the Black community did not accept gays. I just didn't know how deep it was for transgenders. And we're being killed right now. We're being killed by everybody, and we're also being killed by my own Black community, and it's not okay. We need to confront the ways in which transphobia within the Black community sets the stage for violence and trauma. The average lifespan of a Black trans woman is 35 years old. And if you consistently see that around you, you cannot help but mentally accept and be prepared for death as a Black trans woman navigating society. A lot of Black trans are ostracized by their community, their family, the same family who was supposed to love you. But instead, you're discarded like trash, and when you're young, you don't know what to do. You're lacking love, and no one has provided you with any type of tools to move forward, and which is also setting the path of destruction for them. And other things that set the path of destruction is just hate in the workplace, hate in the health field, and then hate within the community. I feel like the LGBTQIA community, there's a lot of transgender is at the bottom of the poll when it comes to that, and I don't quite understand why. We're all within the same community. We've all have faced segregation. We've all been in the Stonewall together, so it's like I don't understand why there would be hate from within our own community. But I truly feel like the entire Black community and the LGBTQIA community needs to come together and support our trans sisters and brothers. We cannot fight this battle alone. One of my biggest things that I was telling a friend earlier today is that I'm scared to travel. With me being trans, I am extremely scared to travel to other places, to see, because with me living here, it's still dangerous. Every day is a struggle, but I know it's not as dangerous as compared to other places. And that has always been a hindrance for me because I'm scared to go visit beautiful places because I'm not sure how they respond to trans. And and I shouldn't have to feel like that. Every day my safety is in danger. Just simply with me going to work every day, all it takes is one person to have ill feelings towards me, and it's a wrap. And I shouldn't have to be living in that fear in my own neighborhood. There is no reason why I or anybody should have to feel this way. I pray that this upcoming generation does not have to feel the fears that we face now and all the ones before me who fought the same battle. Like, we've been dealing with this for years. When is enough going to be enough? I often wonder, will I ever be free? Will I ever be able to walk down the street without having thoughts that this might be my last walk? I shouldn't have to feel like this, and I refuse to live my life like that. So where is the change? What's going to be the change so we can stop adding names to remember? What's going to be the change that makes people realize that we're just normal people just like you? We want love and security just like you. If we look back historically, it can be seen that many groups who were oppressed in the past have slowly become more and more accepted, and transgender people should be no exception. Our government needs to recognize the equality that it's so well deserved of the transgender community, as well as every other oppressed community. Yeah, I just pray and wish that I will say that times have changed compared to back then to now. They have gotten better, and it's great, but it's still not enough. We still have a lot more strides to take, and we still have a lot more progress to make. And I just pray and hope that progress actually gets done. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Hennessy, so much for sharing your story, bearing your soul with all of us here this evening. I just want to tell you that you have family within our community, and we're here to protect you. We're here to travel with you. We're here to, you definitely deserve to live life and thrive, right? Not survive. I think that's so important because a lot of us as trans folk, we're in fight or fly. We're surviving the next meal, the next couch, So thank you for sharing your story. It was powerful. A lot of hearts and a lot of support in the chat coming through. So just know that you're not alone, and we love you, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that you're safe. All right. So thank you, Hennessy. Up next, I get to introduce a very incredible person and human being. Armani Lawrence, they, them, is a Black, deaf, trans, non-binary person who resides in San Diego County. This is the first time they are participating in a TDOR, because the planning meetings and the event itself is finally accessible for deaf, trans, Black, Indigenous, people of color. Armani is here to represent themselves as a member of the trans community and share their lived experience and hopefully motivate other trans services providers and organizations to commit to full accessibility for deaf trans community members in San Diego. Everyone, join me in welcoming the incredible Armani Lawrence.
Hello, I'm Armani Lawrence. Thank you for having me today. I'm very grateful to be here and alive today. You know, as we Black folks, we don't always get to live long. Today is Transgender Day of Remembrance, where we honor those lives that we have lost to transphobic violence. As a Black, deaf, trans, non-binary person, I experience intersectional rejection, discrimination, and oppression every single day. I can share a few examples so you can get an idea of my lived experiences. When I came out as trans non-binary last September, it was beautiful because my roommate and I both came out to each other as trans at the same time. It was nothing like coming out as lesbian to my mother at 16. Growing up in a very religious Black family, sexuality was a taboo. I had to live on the down low and couldn't express and be my authentic self. My mother did not react well. We became estranged and haven't spoken for years. Looking back to my childhood, when I was 7 years old, I saw the boys, they were playing shirtless outside, and I ran outside shirtless so that I could be one of them boys. My mother came outside to scold me, and she said, "You aren't a boy, you're a girl." I was so confused, and that incident still haunts me to this day. After that, I was very cautious about my sexuality and my body. Coming out at work in the restaurant industry was a challenge. I was terrified because I was already being discriminated against for being Black and deaf. Chefs would try to test how much I could hear. I couldn't get an interpreter for monthly meetings because they believed that I could do well on lip reading. I had to work twice as hard, and I only guessed about 30% of what was spoken in those monthly meetings. I had to teach my boss and my coworkers how to treat me. Coming out added more layers of discrimination. As a Black, deaf, trans, queer person, I had to prove myself as a cook, over and over again. Working as a Black queer in the male-dominated environment, I had to brace myself for inappropriate comments regarding my sexuality. I actually thrive in fast-paced environments of the kitchen, but it's hard to not get frustrated by the kind of treatment and let it interfere with my work ethic. Now, finally, I feel comfortable expressing both my femininity and my masculinity without feeling pressured or ashamed. But it took me a long time to feel free and to believe that my body is beautiful. Being trans taught me a lot about love, especially self-love. Loving myself through the journey and discovering my chosen fam after being on my own for a very long time. Learning what it's like to have healthy relationship with my own body helped in building connections with others. That said, I would be lying. I love my body. I love my trans body and my trans community. That being said, I would be lying if I said I don't feel threatened whenever I'm in public. With COVID, sometimes I do feel safer with my mask on, so I blend in more easily. We have the right to feel safe inside and outside of our bodies. My heart goes out to those who lost their lives, and I will keep living my truth for them. I will end by saying this. For you non-Black and non-signing folks, please consider making your events accessible for deaf BIPOC folks. We are part of your community and deserve to participate. And for you non-Black and non-trans leaders, step back. Let BIPOC community members lead. You've already dominated so much of our time and our spaces. It's our time now.
Armani, thank you so much. Can we, those of you who are all watching live, can we please just hit that heart emoji and just give love to Armani, please? And let's just type Armani's name in that chat box, please. Just giving lots of love and light to Armani, and thank you for educating us and bringing awareness to accessibility, right? Very important, very, very important. I get to introduce an incredible group of trans Latinas. So I will introduce their director, Jaina Arangure, she, her, hers. Jaina Arangure is a proud transgender Latina who is originally from Nayarit, Mexico. Her passion is health education and nursing. She often uses her platform to discuss the health disparities the transgender, Latino, Latina, Latinx migrant community members face. Jaina Arangure received a degree in tourism from the University of Autónoma of Nayarit, Mexico. She is currently the director and founder of Proyecto Trans Latina. Can we give a thumbs up in the chat box, please? Lots of hearts, yes. She is currently the director and founder of Proyecto Trans Latina, a nonprofit association in San Diego, California. Jaina Arangure is driven to create change, demanding justice, and fight for equality as well as equity. We're proud to introduce you all to Proyecto Trans Latina, Jaina Arangure, ella, Frania Truchman, ella, Victoria Belmont, ella, Vicky Areñas, y Natalia Bravo, ella. They couldn't join us. They couldn't join us live, but we're gonna play a video. Very powerful message, you all.
Migrante latina. Mi nombre es Jaina Arangure. Mi pronombre es ella. Soy la directora y fundadora de Proyecto Trans Latina de aquí de San Diego. Y hoy, en este día tan especial de remembranza y de vigilia por nuestras hermanas trans, quiero elevar mi voz. Quiero que todo el mundo escuche mi voz, que yo no quiero ser una más de mis hermanas asesinadas y violentadas. No, yo no quiero ser una más de ellas. Y no entiendo el motivo o la razón por el cual pasa todo esto. Quizás sea por ignorancia o falta de tolerancia hacia nuestra persona, o por ser diferentes, o por buscar un espacio en la sociedad. Un espacio que exigimos, que nos pertenece y que por mucho tiempo nos los han negado, nos los han arrebatado y hemos sido marginadas por mucho tiempo. Y cuando exigimos un derecho, nos arrebatan nuestras vidas y nos violentan.
¡Alto tanta violencia! Las mujeres trans estamos siendo violentadas, estamos siendo asesinadas. ¡Basta la violencia de género! Tenemos que estar unidas, aprender a protegernos para que pare la transfobia.
20 de noviembre, Remembranza Trans. He perdido amigas, hermanas, compañeras, víctimas de la violencia, la transfobia, el racismo, lo cual me tiene impactada. Por esa razón debemos estar unidas, permanecer unidas siempre. Arriba las trans.
¿Qué tal? Mi nombre es Victoria Bello, soy mexicana, latina. Y la verdad, en esta ocasión quiero alzar la voz por todas esas personas, todas esas mujeres trans, hombres trans que han luchado por nuestros derechos. Los derechos de tener respeto, de tener libertad, de que nos dejen vivir como queremos, como somos. Siempre hemos sido marginadas, discriminadas. Las mujeres trans, simplemente por el hecho de ser de la comunidad LGBT, llevamos muchas cosas encima, mucho desprecio, humillaciones, falta de oportunidades, discriminación, golpes. Creo que ya es tiempo de decir basta, basta de tantas agresiones, basta de tantas muertes, tantas mujeres y hombres que han muerto por defender nuestros derechos. Ya basta.
Por todas las que ya no están, por todas las que hemos perdido. Vamos, en su memoria, a continuar esta lucha. Somos fuertes, somos unidas y lo vamos a lograr.
Hola, soy Natalia Bravo de San Diego, California. Soy parte de la comunidad LGBT. Hoy estamos recordando con mucho cariño a todas esas mujeres, hombres y niños que han perdido la vida solo por el hecho de ser transgénero. Desde que nacimos con una desventaja: respeto. Es muy difícil tener una educación, es muy difícil encontrar un trabajo, porque no hay un trabajo para nosotras, para nosotros. Es muy difícil encontrar ayuda. Ya hemos perdido a muchas y muchos. Nos han hecho mucho daño. Ya es hora de que por favor nos respeten y nos dejen ser libres y vivir con dignidad. Ya hemos perdido muchas voces.
Muchas gracias, los de Proyecto Trans Latina. Thank you so much. And wish you all could be here.
So far this year, we've had since 2008, we've been collecting names internationally. There's been 3,664 people that have been killed. 60% of those were sex workers. 97% of those killed globally were trans women or femmes. 89% of those in the US were people of color. 73% of those killed in Europe were migrants. The location of their death, 41% of them were in the streets, 21% their own residence, 6% on the highway. The average age was 30 years old. The youngest was 8 years old, and the oldest 80. So far this year, since October 1st, 2019 to September 30th, 2020, we've added a few other names since September 30th. There's been 350 murders. It's the second most. The only year that there were more was actually 2018. 62% of those were sex workers. 98% were trans women or femmes. 79% of those people in the US were people of color. 50% killed in Europe were migrants. 38% were on the streets. 22% within their own residence, and the average age was 31 years old, with the youngest being 15 this year.
Brianna B.B. Hill. She was a beloved member of her community, a fan of the Kansas City football team, and loved spreading joy by sharing funny videos on her Facebook page. Nikki Haasen. She was never afraid to be Nikki. Lisa Woods, her mother, said. She was known for being tough, bubbly, and outspoken. She dreamed of being a makeup artist or clothing designer for stars like Nicki Minaj, her favorite rapper. Yahira Nesmi. She was a loved member of the New York ball scene and a member of the House of Chanel. She was a religious woman who shared videos and powerful words of faith on her social media profiles. Her friends and family knew Nesby as, quote, a good spirit, genuinely good people, and said every time Nesby was around, she put a smile on my face and others. Mia Penny. Quote, it hurts every day because she was like a best friend. She was very lovable, says her mom, Tasha Penny. Dustin Parker. Dustin was a founding member of Oklahomans for Equality McAllister Chapter, Southeastern Equality. Dustin was a steadfast friend, an amazing husband, and a father, and generous to a fault. He loved fiercely, worked tirelessly, and took on life with so much hope and enthusiasm that his presence brightened all of our lives. He leaves behind his wife, Regina, and 4 children.
Julissa Luciano Ruiz. Quote, Julissa Luciano Ruiz was a human being, a member of a community, a friend, and a family member, said HRC Director of Community Engagement, Tori Cooper. Quote, she had dreams, hopes, hobbies, and did not deserve to have her life taken from her. HRC has heard that Ruiz was experiencing homelessness, further highlighting the ways a toxic mix of transphobia and misogyny conspire to put the transgender community at risk of extreme violence. Alexa Negron Luciano. Alexa was very well known from social media in Puerto Rico. The reaction to her death was described by LGBT activist Pedro Julio Serrano as an earthquake of consciousness that hit the island. Puerto Rican artist Bad Bunny wore a shirt on a live concert on The Tonight Show that read, "They killed Alexa, not a man in the skirt." Yampi Mendez Arocho. Arocho shared his love for basketball and the NBA, donning Miami Heat apparel on social media. The biography on his Facebook reads simply, "Humility prevails." John Scott DeVore, Scotland Kelly DeVore. DeVore was reportedly gender fluid. Quote, "Nobody deserves this, and I just can't wrap my head around that they've done this to DeVore," said Kelly DeVore, John's sister. Quote, "DeVore still had the same heart, no matter what they looked like, which was a good heart and a kind heart." Monica Diamond. Diamond was active in the Charlotte LGBTQ and nightlife community and was the co-owner of an event promotion company. She also was the co-CEO of the International Mother of the Year Pageantry System, a pageant that honors LGBTQ mothers.
Lexi Ebony Sutton. "I really looked up to her because of her tolerance and respect," said friend Lavinia Brooks. "Lexi had a beautiful heart. She was very gifted." Brooks also noted that Lexi loved poetry, makeup, and fashion. Lorena Bordas. Bordas died of complications from COVID-19. She left an orphaned community of transgender women, especially Latina immigrant women in Queens, and countless LGBT rights activists who looked up to her for guidance, inspiration, and love. 240 people gathered for the memorial via Zoom, which added a layer of heartbreak to the mourning of a person whose legacy was one building community in the streets of her Jackson Heights neighborhood. Henrietta Robinson. For 6 decades, Henrietta Robinson was beloved Miami Beach socialite and South Florida LGBTQ icon. Her signature Old Hollywood style and blonde bouffant established her as a universally recognized person around town and in South Beach gay bars. Mother of Miami Beach, regulars called her. She kind of was the godmother of us all. Miami Beach Commissioner Michael Gongora says, "Always somebody happy to lend a smile, a nice comment, a word of advice." Joanna Metzger is from Pennsylvania and was at a recovery center in Baltimore. Her mother says she taught herself how to play multiple instruments and was a college graduate. Safe Haven founder Laya Damons, "This has gone on far way too long before COVID. 10 years, 10 bodies. Baltimoreans, are you listening? It's a lot." Penelope Diaz Ramirez. Penelope did not deserve to die. Transgender people do not deserve to die. Every single advocate, ally, elected official, and community member must stand up in light of this horrific news and say, no more. What are we doing? Is not enough, said Tori Cooper, HRC Director of Community Engagement. People and policy must work together to protect our lives and our well-being.
I think we missed one. So Serena Angelique Velasquez, if you can go back one. No? Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead and go forward. All right. Leila Sanchez. Sanchez had recently moved to the island and was living in the Tejas neighborhood in Las Piedras. Luz Melendez, Leila's cousin, describes her as being an easygoing young woman who had been raised by her grandmother and was just beginning to explore the world. There we are. Serena Angelique Velasquez Ramos. Loved ones are mourning her death, calling her full of life, a happy person, and a sincere friend. Serena maintained a YouTube channel teaching her audience about personal spiritual practices. Nina Pop. Pop, only 28 years old, worked at a fast food restaurant in Sykeston and was well known in the area. It's quoted that she was always happy, her friend Emroy Macaulay says. Hel J. O'Regan. O'Regan was proud of her trans identity and spoke out against injustice, including LGBTQ inequality, the prison industrial complex, and the need to decriminalize sex work. Jane Thompson. Her closest friends remember her as an amazing person and want people to know that she was very thoughtful, loved, and cared for. Though quiet on the surface, friends remember her as funny and lively once she let you in. There was a lot more than met the eye. One close friend describes how they danced together on the porch in the morning and how she was just such a game changer.
Tony McDade. He was very well known growing up, so the name assigned to him at birth began to have its own ring to it. However, he did affirm himself as Tony and as a brother. He was very intelligent and very self-aware. Royce Hall, a family friend, quoted. Selena Reyes Hernandez. Another one of my trans sisters was killed. Selena Reyes Hernandez lived her beautiful truth out loud and died because of it, said Alexandria Ramirez, her friend. Dominique Renee Fells. Originally from York, Fells was a social butterfly who was very close to her mother. She lived her truth so loud that you could hear it her a mile away, said by friend Kendall Stevens. Bria Milton. She just wanted to be accepted for who she was, said her mother, Tracy Milton. Brian Egypt Powers. He was very proud of who he was, never ashamed of who he was, and I think that's a lot, said his sister, Vivian Powers Smith.
Brayla Stone. The Center for Artistic Revolution wrote, Brayla was someone who always held space for others to be themselves and to express their identities. Drea McCarty. Amite and Louisiana leaders must speak out against these killings, against the ongoing systemic devaluation of trans people that pervades our media and politics, and against the institutional racism that places almost all of this burden on trans women of color. As we mourn the loss of Shaky and Drea, we must double down on our efforts to ensure that all trans people across the state have access to safety. Louisiana Trans Advocates. Mercy Mack. Her loved one shared how beautiful of a friend she was. She enjoyed baking and was looking forward to returning to work. Her family described her as an upbeat person who doted on her niece and nephews. That's the kind of auntie she was. I don't care what your mama says. Come get in this car and we're going to get some ice cream. They loved her, her sister, Taisha Rickett. Tatiana Hall. Tatiana, 22, described by friends as a sweetheart who had no ill will towards anyone. To know her is to love her, and if you didn't know her, that's a sad thing, a close friend stated. Friends and family members say that Hall was a devout fashionista who dreamed of opening her own boutique or clothing line someday. She loved to keep her hair and her nails done. She had the prettiest smile, and she liked to have fun. Shaky Peters. Friends remember Peters, a performance artist and community organizer, as consistently laughing, consistently joking, and the first person to get up and dance.
Bree Black. Bree Nuke Black was 27 years young. The average life expectancy for a Black trans woman is 35 years of age, said Nikki Harris of the Trans Inclusive Group. Bree was loved. Summer Taylor. Summer had a passion and determination for justice and actively stood in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. Summer's family shares Summer was a fiercely born leader with a sense of compassion since childhood. A close friend wrote, Summer is an incredibly strong and independent spirit. They are bright and caring person whose presence elicits joy and laughter to others. Angela Martinez Gomez, 42, was originally from Oaxaca, Mexico. Angela was said to have been a leader and loved by her family and community. A community member stated, Angela Martinez Gomez taught us to fight our dreams and to be ourselves. Marilyn Kazares. Marilyn's family remember her love for Tupac and how much she loved to sing and dance. A free spirit, she was known in the community for her colorful clothing and attitude. Her cousin recalls how Marilyn could be found jamming out to Billie Jean like the badass queen she was. Marilyn was always embraced her identity even as a young child. Tiffany Harris. New York City Council member Vanessa Gibson, involved in the renaming of the 161st and Morris Avenue to Black Lives and Black Trans Lives Matters Boulevard, says, we have to continue to lift up Tiffany Harris's name because her life mattered. Black trans lives matter. And no matter what we do, let's understand that everything we do has to make sure that we support our community.
Keisha Hardy. Keisha Quee Hardy, 24, was a very talented hairstylist and beautiful Black trans woman. She loved having fun and turning up. She was always the center of attention when the music came on, and knew exactly how to get the party started. Quee enjoyed braiding, styling, and glamming up her clients. She always wanted to bring out the best in others. She was best known for being funny, charming, and charismatic. Asia Raquel Roan Spears. Asia was a playful, creative soul who enjoyed time with family and friends. She was the owner and founder of her very own clothing company based in Portland. Neighbors and loved ones remember her as a vibrant personality. She served her community as an advocate and fighter for racial justice who wasn't afraid to stand up for others. Key Sam. Key Sam was a vibrant spirit who loved just being herself, taking and posting frequent photos on her Instagram where she coined herself Lafayette Sweetheart. Friends are left in shock at the loss of this beautiful soul, noting how loved she was. One of her friends posting on her Instagram page, "I will miss you. You know, you're in my heart forever." Leah Rashawn Day. Leah's death is unacceptable. Increased risk factors such as homelessness combined with racism, sexism, and transphobia conspired to lead to the death that never should have happened. Tori Cooper, HRC Director of Community Engagement. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Ariane Burnett. Ariane was a beautiful, ongoing woman known as a genuinely good person who cared about others. Ariane was a Barbie, a friend said. She was a goddess. Can you hear me? Fun. When I say goddess, she was everything. If you wanted to have a good day, you need to smile. Ariane was the person you wanted by your side. She was the life of the party. Mia Green. Mia's loss was especially heartbreaking to those who knew her. Friends lovingly recall Mia. Her smile was so perfect and contagious, she made me laugh. Others stated that she was such a sweet spirit. She was very well loved and respected, and from all accounts from everyone in the community, she was an amazing, beautiful person. Activist Deja Lynn Alvarez noted.
Michelle Ramos Vargas. Michelle was dedicated to bettering herself and the world around her. She worked at a factory and as a bartender, but her true passion lied in helping others. She was pursuing her passion of caring for others, studying nursing at Ponce Paramedical College. Felicia Harris. Felicia, 33, was an interior decorator and ran her own company. She said she could do just about anything with decorating, which she learned from her late grandmother. Friends remember her laugh, the smile, the smiles, the talks, the arguments, the attitudes. Everybody is going to remember who Felicia Harris is, end quote. She enjoyed dancing, fashion, and style, and had a sense of humor and was full of life. Brooklyn Deshuna. Brooklyn attended a parish community college and studied cosmetology. Friends are remembering Brooklyn on social media, with one friend saying that she was genuinely a good person, and another sharing she didn't deserve this. I'm heartbroken. Friends and family are also calling for justice. Sarah Blackwood. Blackwood was an avid fan of the show My Little Pony, enjoyed the history of folklore and playing video games, her friends say. I love her so much, and I'm grieving so deeply. She was my whole world, and I'm inconsolable. Avery Blackwood, Sarah's partner, said. Angel Unique. Angel, 25 years old, is a licensed cosmetologist from Memphis, Tennessee. Friends and family have been sharing their memories of her. A memory of Angel's family remembered her on Facebook as such a bright person with a positive spirit. Everybody that knew Angel knew that she was very funny, very nice to everybody she met. Uni Carey. Uni Carey Herrera was a model, performer, dancer, and activist who was well known and loved by the LGBTQ community in Miami. She was proud of her Cuban heritage. Over the summer, Herrera posted, "I just need to be me and be here." The true queen inspires all over the world with her legacy and experiences. I make my own dreams, she said.
We're now going to transition to reading the number of lives lost from countries around the world. South Africa, 1. India, 10. Pakistan, 7. Philippines, 2. Indonesia, 1.
Nepal, 1. Brazil, 152. Mexico, 57. Colombia, 21. Argentina, 12.
El Salvador, 10. Guatemala, 8. Honduras, 6. Peru, 6. Ecuador, 2.
Bolivia, 1. Dominican Republic, 1. Nicaragua, 1. Paraguay, 1. Venezuela, 1.
Italy, 4. Russia, 2. Azerbaijan, 1. Finland, 1. France, 1.
Spain, 1. Sweden, 1. Australia, 1. Canada, 2.
I want to thank everyone who's joining us live this evening. Thank you for leaning in to learn more, do more, and be present as we process our emotions and feelings on this very emotional and heart-wrenching night. Let us, as San Diegans, continue to acknowledge that we are on stolen Kumeyaay land and to always honor our indigenous communities. May we begin to exalt and protect Black trans lives and learn how to show up for each other. We all need to do more to empower our disabled, deaf, and blind community members by making our programming, events, and facilities 100% accessible. We need to start taking better care of our trans, Latinas, asylum seekers, and migrant communities. It takes a village to raise a child, and we need to continue protecting our queer, trans, non-binary, and two-spirited youth. This evening would not have been made possible without the incredible TDOR Planning Committee of 20. We had 20 folks joining our committee. It was very nice. It was very nice. Shout out to all of our community partners, Project Trans at the center, Hillcrest Youth Center, as well as South Bay Youth Center, San Diego Pride, House of Resilience, the Gender Fluid Collective, the Gender Advocacy Project, North County LGBTQ Resource Center, Unicorn Homes, Trans Family Support Services, Proyecto Translatina, San Diego Black LGBTQ Coalition, Mix Mendoza, the Strong-Hearted Native Women's Coalition, and P-Flag San Diego County. We love you all. Stay safe. Mwah. Hasta luego.